Hello all, welcome to this session of Stroke Support India Open House, where we try and we interact with stroke warriors as well as experts to gain inputs as well as encourage one another. And I'm very glad to have Samantha Mackey with us today, along with Shailaja. Shailaja will be taking the meet. And just a small introduction about Stroke Support India. We are a patient support group in India for basic mission being raising stroke awareness and helping the stroke affected as well as the caregivers, the family caregivers. A little bit about Samantha. She's a triple stroke survivor herself, had 2 TIAs and more severe stroke, and since then has been working with stroke and head injury survivors and their caregivers, providing neuro-linguistic programming coaching, which is interesting. I have read a little bit about that, but hopefully we can learn more as we go forward. And she says that it's a life-changing toolbox of tools and strategies to help reprogram one's brain. And she has a website under the name masterstrokecoaching.co.uk. Of course, in the link, and when it goes on the tube, we'll be putting the link there also. And anyone can go and check her out. And with this, I pass it on to you, Shailaja, and to you, Samantha, and look forward to a good meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hardeep.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. So, Samantha, can you detail us more about yourself, your profession, lifestyle? What are the about more on your personal life, basically?
So I shall
Whatever you
start
can discuss. Yeah.
when I had my stroke. I had my 3 strokes in 2-year intervals. The first TIA in 2006, I was at work. I went back to work a few days later. My second TIA 8 years the following day, and then it got serious on me. 2 years after that, in 2010, I went to sleep in the afternoon, which is most unusual for me. When I'm up, and I don't go to bed in the middle of the day, whatever. But I didn't feel myself. When I got up 2 hours later, my then partner said I was speaking funny, but he froze and didn't call the ambulance. And then I was speaking to a good friend of mine, and she also said, "You don't sound right. I can't understand you." And she had a friend come over to my house, and they organized between them both the calling of the ambulance. So the hospital where I went to was 10 minutes away. So the ambulance came within 15 minutes. I was whisked off, but I had the stroke. Well, I passed out in the hallway from my door to the ambulance. When I awoke, it was 3 days later, and I felt held, because I had my brother, his husband, and all my dear friends peering down on me. When I spoke, they couldn't understand me because I had aphasia. I could not walk. My right side, my dominant side, was lame. But I did not feel frightened. I don't know. I spent 6 weeks in the hospital. And then I was transferred to the rehab facility where I spent a further 6 weeks. But these things take time. And the idea that you have to get better by the end of the month or by the end of this year or by whatever time suits you is a fallacy, and that leads to only more stress. I did not worry about that, but I did not realize how damaged I was, because on the outside I look fine, but there are such a thing as cognitive issues that I have, high-level ones. What? Yeah. The consultant told me about my high-level cognitive issues when I left the rehab facility, but I filed it neatly in the back of my brain because I did not understand what that was.
So you were able to recognize the people, your family members?
Pardon?
You were able to recognize your family members,
Yes.
those
Yes.
memory and all. You
Yes.
didn't have. Did you have issues with that? And
No.
did you know about stroke previously? Like any of your family members impacted?
Well, my birth father, died of a stroke.
Oh.
So there is history. But my mom raised me, so I did not know that. I only found this out a few months ago, even though my stroke was 13 years ago. But it wouldn't have made any difference because I was leading a clean life. I exercised, rode a bicycle, not too much drinking, not too much smoking, maintaining a trim body. I thought I was leading a good life.
So was there a diagnosis done on the by the experts, doctors there?
Yes, but they don't know why I had the stroke.
Okay, and
That's
how many days?
Pardon?
Yeah, how many days were you staying in the hospital?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, and then I spent a further 6 weeks in the rehab.
Yeah.
But now 13 years later, after trials and tribulations, I'm exactly in the space that I'm meant to be in. You know, we give ourselves so much more importance than we're due because this is a big universe and our place in it is infinitesimally small. So even the cognitive issues that I had, which led me to move up to Scotland, even though I would have been better staying at home in London, where I was cared for by my friends and family, I moved up to Scotland because of Anne. And then I moved back 2 years later. But through that, I went on, I was working in the NHS, the National Health Service, as it's called in London. And there I went on a coaching weekend, life coaching. But it hooked me in. And then I went back to work on that Monday, and there was executive coaching on offer. I never go through the newsletter. I'm at work, I work. I don't play around. Okay. And then I heard about neuro-linguistic programming coaching. The reason I went on that is because the name interests me. In these days of short and snappy answers or titles, what type of title is neuro-linguistic programming coaching? You would never go on a course like that, but I did. But I only went on it because of myself. I didn't go on it because I thought I could help the stroke world. No, I went on it because it interests me. And one day I implemented all of the strategies, all of the tools, because I found that it really helped me in my personal life. And then one day I was speaking to a stroke survivor friend of mine, and he was going through a dark place, murky, which so easily could have become much lighter had he known about neuro-linguistic programming coaching. For example, he wasn't able to look at it from their perspective. Those that love you, care for you, and they automatically become your carers. They don't have a choice in the matter. And my heart goes out to them. I assume that's why Hardeep started this valuable Stroke India group, because he needed some help. And comment, in the box or whatever, Hardeep, if I'm speaking out of turn, but that is what I assume. They get no training. And they don't know how to deal with it. You asked before, I think Hardeep asked before, or you, what was my idea of stroke before? And I didn't answer that because I had no idea. Stroke was a little old lady, crumpled, and towards the end of her life, and that was my idea of stroke. Well, during these 13 years, I have a much clearer idea of stroke because I'm a volunteer at the Stroke Association in England. And the stories I hear and the stroke survivors I've personally coached come from every walk of life, no matter what age, no matter actually what lifestyle. That's what gets me. So these people need help. And I thought, and so the idea was born. I can help him. And I've gone on to help a fair few stroke survivors. So my aim is to get the word out there. And yeah.
Yeah, so basically, you what kind of therapies are beneficial for you, since you had a right side, dominant side was affected, right?
What did you say?
You also went through this neuro-linguistic.
Yes, I'm now a practitioner.
Okay, so when did you how many years of gap was there since you had the stroke and when you got this program, when you got this?
8 years.
8 years. Okay, so until then, what kind of therapies were beneficial for you? Like, how was your family's role, and what kind of therapies were beneficial for you at that time?
So my family's role, my brother lives a mile away, and he is my younger brother, but he adopted the older brother routine of looking out for me, involving himself in any decisions, because I live by myself in a ground floor flat. So I did not have to have any modifications. My mom lives in Trinidad and Tobago, but she came up to visit me, and the first thing she did was throw away the cane that I was using until then to aid in my recovery. A cane is a crutch. And if you don't need to have a crutch, throw it away. I've never fallen, touch wood. That's just my experience. So, the stroke comes in many different guises. But my family was very to me, as one can imagine, and also my friends, few though they may be. It's astonishing the amount of people that disappear on you when you've had a stroke. But I look at it, don't be angry with those people. They are dealing with the limited resources that they have available to them at that time. I don't know what a stroke was. Who knows if I would have hung around. But that's when you realize who your true friends are. And you can cherish them. What else did I do? Okay. So My right side was lame, okay, but my right arm, yeah, yes. And I had exercises given to me by the physio. And I would complain each year or half a year when I would go in, the exercises are not working. And her standard response were, do them more frequently. Next year, next year, next year. 9 years after, I went in for a close-off meeting with the consultant neurologist. He was on holiday, and his replacement treated me as though I were a new patient. And he said immediately, those exercises that you've been given are the wrong ones. I don't know how that occurred, but every year
After
I would
9 years.
in after 9 years, because they looked at me, I'm fine, right? Right. But my right arm wasn't working. He sent me for a 3-week intensive course at the Queen's Hospital of Neurology and Neuropathy in London. And I went there every day. And they customize their approach to whatever you present as a stroke survivor. And they're great. But 9 years is 9 years. So, yeah, you can imagine. But I've adapted. I now paint with my left hand. Yep. And I can't do everything, but I can do most things. And you'll be surprised at the number of people willing to do those things that you are not able to do. You don't have to feel ashamed of that. Yes, I had a stroke.
How about your daily course and all you are able to do by your
Pardon?
all your daily routine you are able to do by yourself.
Not everything,
work,
but most things. Most things,
most
but
of
not everything. But I find a workaround. If I can't wear a dress that hook buttons in the back, I find another dress to wear. Or, if I can't chop onions, that's finally I chop them bigger.
Yeah. On professional front, no, is there any change on professional front?
Pardon?
On your professional life, was there any negatives because of?
Oh my God. Yeah. So I had a thriving career in the restaurant and hotel industry. My family go back from my grandma, who ran events in the Trinidad and Tobago home about then Prime Minister, to my mom, who's now running 2 hotels in Tobago. I fell in love with the industry from day dot. After my stroke, no, nothing. But after I moved back from Scotland, I was working in Nespresso. That's a coffee company that sells coffee machines. And one day, a former employee of mine, I worked myself up to being the director of business development at London's largest hotel from 2004 to 2002 to 2004. One of my previous, he was my head of catering, has worked himself up to being a general manager. There is a point to this. And he came into Nespresso one day and he said, "You are wasted here. Come and work for me." What? I did not give it a second thought. I was off. I gave my notice. Yeah. After 6 weeks, he let me go. Even though my OT said she could come in and find some workarounds. I thought I was doing a magnificent job, but those high-level cognitive issues had come back to bite me. But on the other hand, I would not be here now with you, 9 people
If you
explaining
had,
exactly. So one thing leads to another, but it's a
but how about
crazy.
your movement to Scotland? Like, wasn't that like intimidating basically to move to another new place and get adapted to it?
For many people, yes. But for me, I've been traveling since I was 2.5. And before
Okay.
the age of 10, I had lived on 3 continents. So, no. Oh, no.
No, I'm asking because you had problems on your dominant side. How about
Hmm.
the real travel part of it?
Um, well, it was because of a gentleman that I moved up to Scotland. So he took care of all that moving and
Okay.
yeah. Work with what you got. Here.
Yeah. How was the experience with NHS? Like, how do you how is that job for you now?
What job?
The NHS, you said you used to work for NHS, right?
The hotel job or the
No, the
neuro-linguistic
NHS.
programming? Oh,
Yes,
I work. Yeah,
neuro-linguistic programming. Yes.
yes. I feel that though I found my calling because the simple techniques and the joy that it brings people is it's unfathomable. Unfathomable. Yeah.
Fathomable. Yeah.
When you see that realization, coaching is great anyway because a counselor can, tell you what to do, but the likelihood of you doing it is absolutely nil. Because when people tell you what to do, okay, you listen to them, but you don't do it. But when you have that realization for yourself and you take certain actions, one thing I do, I recap every conversation that I have with my stroke survivors or head injury survivors or their caregivers, because I'm very cognizant of the issues that people go through when they've had a stroke, the possible issues. So a coach doesn't generally write down because they think if you want to do it, you will write it down. It doesn't work that way with stroke survivors. They must see it visually. They must hear it, through their hearing sense. They must be able to refer back to it. So go on my website and you'll see there a stroke survivor video, 2. And the peace that they get when they realize that I am a stroke survivor. I've gone through similar things to what they have. And I've been trained in neuro-linguistic programming coaching. Those two issues, those two, what those two elements are magical. Yeah.
Understand. Right.
Hmm.
So basically, how is your other like social life and all currently? Like, is it all the same? Is it any, I know, is there any difference?
Well, now I used to be great at entertaining. I would have a house full of people, pre-stroke, parties galore, 20, 30 people. Now I prefer with just 3 people. Thank you very much. I'm much more, I seek much more intimacy And I can't stand the shouting over each other. As many
Very
stroke
sensitive, right?
survivor, yeah. We have to adapt, as I'm sure your fellow stroke survivor listeners can attest to. They
That's
prefer,
right.
stillness.
That's right. Yes, yes. We are more sensitive. We are more, less, what to say. We
But
have less threshold values probably.
but interesting. I prefer myself now to what I imagine I would have become if I had stayed in the hotel world. I was in revenue management and business development. That can be done by ChatGPT,
That's
but
right. Yes.
coaching, I don't think it can be done
You,
by ChatGPT. You need
okay.
that
So
personal
your
touch.
probably your goals have changed because of
Yes,
stroke, which
yes,
is a very good thing.
yes. So
Any other negative consequences that you want to share with us because of positives you have already listed, I suppose.
because of my stroke, I am much more direct and I forget things. So with my companion, I snap and, don't come here, please. And I lash out. Well, I don't lash, but I snap. But I employ neuro-linguistic programming coaching on myself. And I shudder to think what I would have been like had I not been able to dip in to this toolbox of strategies. Yeah. I would not be with my companion now, I think, because I don't know.
Okay.
I shudder.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Any medication details that you want to share? Like,
Well, my blood pressure was already low, so 130 over 70, I think, is the standard. And they gave me a statin and clopidogrel. I don't know what they do, but they seem to work.
so to keep your blood pressure
Yes, but
levels.
it was already low.
Yeah.
So I think they just give you tablets. But I take them religiously. I've never missed a day. So yeah.
Okay. You don't know what it is.
No. They don't know what caused my stroke. So what are they, we expect doctors to have the answers for all of our ails, but they're only people.
So what is the age when you had stroke basically? At that point
44.
of time?
44. Yeah, that was 13 years ago.
Okay. So any other mode of there are many other medications, right? Like yoga and all. Have you tried any of it? Since it's already 13 years, have you gone for any alternate medication or anything?
So I used to do Iyengar yoga pre-stroke. And when I went back post my stroke, like 6 months after, they looked at me like, what is she doing here? They were totally unprepared. And that saddened me because I know intrinsically that yoga is good for stroke. But half the physio world is saying that no, stroke should not be used for yoga, and half are saying that it should. But so I went to an adaptive yoga class, but it was too far away from me. I only went for a year, but I missed it. And one day I was went on Instagram, and the story of Rachel at My Yoga Will struck me because she had never done yoga. You've had her on this program before, and she immediately went and did a teacher training course in yoga. That I found amazing. So I approached her, and now she gives me yoga sessions, and I give her neuro-linguistic programming coaching sessions. So it's a fair trade-off. Also, I have an allotment, a patch where one can grow stuff. And it's astonishing the amount of people, I can't do everything. But during lockdown, I was down here, I went away, and my neighbor on the allotment site saw that it was, I couldn't move, he could move. And he invited people from Extinction Rebellion to come down to my plot, because in London, there was a big thing, or in the UK, there was a big thing about you couldn't move. I don't know how it was in India, but during that time, it was lockdown.
Lockdown, yeah.
Yeah. But he invited them to come down, and they came down, and they tended my plot. Must have been 10 of them. After lockdown, I went back, and one person, first there were 3 people that remained, but one person is still there, and he tends to the allotment plot for me. So nice. I go down there when...
Okay. There's a question, basically.
Yes. Hi, Samantha. Is it necessary? Wait a minute.
Yeah. Is it necessary to undergo formal training in NLP to heal self, or can an NLP coach help?
I think I can, as an NLP practitioner, I can show you techniques that would help you, whatever you bring to the table. But that's not to say that were an NLP practitioner course available to you, that you wouldn't benefit. But I would, whatever you bring to the table, recommend the strategy that goes to it. So it depends on how interested you are in NLP, whether you just want it for your certain issues, or you are doing it because it as a concept interests you. I think.
Okay. Yeah. Shrutiji, this answers your question, or?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, Shruti.
Yeah, hi, Samantha. Thank you for the wonderful insights. I resonate with you telling about cognitive issues. So definitely we highlight that it is something hidden, but very important to address. And you also spoke about the universe, and we are just a small speck in this universe, and keep moving forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for your wonderful insights.
Listen, I get more from stroke survivors. Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm a lead volunteer at the Stroke Association, and the stories that people of what they've had to endure are quite astonishing. That's why I say every stroke victim, stroke survivor, stroke warrior, we are all of those at any given time of the day. no
That's right.
fear, because you've come as close to death as is maybe, only in a few instances more possible. And it's not like when you break an ankle. The stroke is a lifelong condition. Embrace it, I say. Ask for help
That's
when you
right.
need
Yeah.
it. Don't be ashamed.
Okay. So, how did you you have a network over there? Like, you connect with some stroke support network in your place, and apart from the NLP.
If I understood you correctly, you're asking me if I connect to stroke survivors apart from my
Yeah.
NLP? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I interact with many stroke groups on
Like
Facebook.
social groups.
No. A year after my stroke, I thought I should go visit the Stroke Association.
Okay.
And when I went in there, I saw nothing for me there. They didn't want to challenge, they wanted to comfort. And I didn't need any comfort. I wanted to be challenged. So I left. And I never went back until 2 years ago. I started interacting with the Stroke Association, and now I'm a volunteer for them. So swings and roundabouts. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Any insight or advice that you want to give to people? Like if you're meeting up with someone, like look at this positive thing. Like that. You've already given a lot of insight, but any specific advice that you want to actually give?
Yes, there is. I found, and the many stroke survivors that have availed themselves of my services, I would say practice self-love. Don't compare your stroke or you to anyone else's stroke or condition, because we delete, distort, and generalize our experiences of the world. And each one of us lives according to our own universes. So maybe I can't use my hand, but what else is going on inside of me that makes my recovery so much more likely or less likely? You don't know that. So you should not compare your stroke to anyone else's. And practice self-love. That's what I did, and that's
this kind of an enlightenment stage is like very difficult to attain. According to me, earlier I was a survivor. Did you go through any psychological counseling to get into this kind of a
not counseling, coaching.
Yeah. Okay.
Coaching. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So, yeah, it's very important that we should not, we should be very grateful for
Yes.
what we have got today.
Yes. Yes. And don't.
But that's very difficult to practice, according to me. In fact.
Well, it's not
Right?
actually. It's not. No, it's not. It's not.
Okay, I think I have.
Harish?
Yes. So, will you please give an example of NLP which can be brought to a stroke patient?
What?
Could you please give an example of NLP which can be taught to a stroke patient? A question from Sridhar sir.
Okay, so I had a stroke survivor who was updating her family of everything in a stroke world by text or by email. Yeah. And it was leading to some disconnection with them. And I applied to her a simple questionnaire called the Cartesian coordinates. What would happen if I did that? What wouldn't happen if I did that? What would happen if I didn't do that? What wouldn't happen if I didn't do that? These 4 questions can be applied to every situation in your life. And when you see it, the question that she posed herself was, how can I involve my family in my stroke world? Yeah. And that answered it for her. She now sits them down and talks to them. And she feels like she's getting to know them better. They're much closer. That was a simple trick, but when you don't know, you don't know, you don't know. Or another one, we go through different stages in our life. Sometimes we're up and sometimes we're down. When we're down, we can remember what it was like to be up because we've been there before. So what I tell my stroke survivor patients, and with practice, this becomes more effective, but remember that time when you felt really up, when you felt really powerful, when you felt all those desirable things that you want, and hold it in your heart. Clench your fist and bring it into the now. Yeah. And project it forward to a space where you may not feel so confident. And with practice, it works wonders. That's just 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That's right. So, yes, so Hardeep sir, we have another question from Harish sir.
Yes, sure. I can see that
Yeah.
on the chat, and what I can suggest is maybe people, they can unmute. I have a few questions first, Samantha, quickly. And then, in the meantime, anyone wants to say something, they can either put in the chat or they can unmute themselves and speak up. And of course, we'll take a few questions from the chat also. What interested me, Samantha, while I was listening to you, here is a very vigorous personality, entertainment, hotelier, traveling the world, living a very independent life. And suddenly life changes. And what was also of very interest to me was your mother's attitude when you said that she threw the cane away. So your mother also seems to be a very independent kind of a personality.
Yeah.
And you think that kind of attitude of how do you say, not depending on anyone else or trying to reduce your dependence as much as possible, coming even prior to stroke, plays a role in stroke recovery later on, that kind of approach that you have to life per se.
I think it does. Because when you are, for example, accustomed to somebody else doing everything for you, I don't know. Let me think about that. It doesn't. Because what I was going to say is when you're accustomed to having somebody else do everything for you, and you can even do less for yourself now, you're going to react one of two ways, right? You're going to either go with it or rebel. So it depends on, I don't think you can say that my leading an independent life had a major function, but it had a function. Not a major one, but a. We are much more complex. Stroke survivors, warriors, victims. And no, it has a role, but not a major role.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And you also talked about that after about 9 years of maybe reaching a certain level, when you went back to a new doctor, he changed the exercises. And perhaps that is the universe speaking, because that's sheer luck, that there's a new guy there and he looks at you in a different manner than the others.
Yes.
And that changes things, that leads to some improvements.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think there's a lesson for us also there, that if something is not working for a fair amount of time, perhaps be open to other influences, be open to alternate opinions, alternate ways of of exercising or different strategies. Just be open, to try out new things. And also, you talked about a younger yoga, somewhere in between. So I think that's a very hard yoga. I don't know much about yoga, but it's supposed to be a hard practice, is it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
That's where you have the props and the bolsters and the hanging ropes and
so they help you through the motions, right?
Yes,
right.
yes.
And
Ashtanga yoga is a hard yoga, I think. I don't know.
Yes, I think yes.
Ashtanga is the hard.
Yes.
Younger is the one with props. I remember.
Yeah.
I get that now. So you were practicing for quite a while before the stroke?
Yeah, about 10 years.
Oh, wow. So that's and
but I still cannot touch the floor. Yeah.
Right.
I really hope that resilience, that has built a lot of resilience. I think so.
Sorry, what were you saying, Shailaja?
I think practicing yoga even prior to stroke could have played a part in building the resilience in
Yes,
her.
I
That's
think
what
so.
I can say.
I think there is a certain resilience, certain discipline with these
Yes, definitely.
Approaches, and certainly that helps. And also,
do you do yoga?
Me?
Yes. I do now. I do Ashtanga yoga now.
Ashtanga.
I am trying to
currently.
I'm trying to get into that, but
yeah.
I'm as of now.
No. I mean, my thoughts when she was sharing her views, like after 9 years, these treatments were changed and everything. It's easier said than done, It's accepting that thing was he said it was as though it was nothing, but I would have broken down and a lot of breakdowns would have been there. But I think the yoga practice has given you a lot of resilience. That's what I sense from her talks.
Yes, and do you do Ashtanga now?
Now, yes. I have a trainer. He is actually the yoga. Yes.
Gosh, good. Yeah.
And I'm seeing some questions in chat. And as I said, if anyone has any question, they can either put in the chat or maybe raise their hand and we'll get back to them. Meanwhile, I'll just take one question that I am not very sure how that is by Harish. He's talking about his father who had a brain hemorrhage and he underwent some decompressive surgery. He currently does not have speech, and I'm trying to find a direction or a way to help him get his speech back. And then he says, I'm wondering how can NLP help in this case? So I'm not sure if you have any inputs to share. Please do. How can you have yourself suffered from aphasia for some time? That's what I remember.
Yes, but NLP did not,
Right.
no. But if he does not get his speech back, you never know. It's how I can help him and his son cope with that strategy. I can't help get his speech back. I got my speech back through playing word games on my phone. Scrabble, love Scrabble. Wordle, I love Wordle. And these two, and Duolingo, I thought my French and my German were gone. I woke up in the hospital speaking German, but not that anyone could understand. So it was all muddled. But through discipline, I switch on my phone in the morning, and while I'm having my breakfast, I play Duolingo, Wordle, and Scrabble. And that means I don't have to think before I speak. It was a long process where I had to think, and I was getting words mixed up. Even now, you saw that several words I tumble over. And I could, who's the question from?
Hi, Samantha, I'm here.
Hi, Harish. Yeah, does he do word games?
So that is what I'm trying to understand. Like, I think as I can see you right now, you had like 4 strokes, and I don't know what exactly was the if you had any surgeries, or as you said, or like everyone's condition is different, everyone's stroke is different, age is different, like the lifestyle pre-stroke, lifestyle after stroke, the willpower, everything is different. Like it can be different. So that of course affects the recovery process. So the condition right now is like he's stuck with one word and he just repeats that one word. So I spoke to someone in the US yesterday. They make some applications for tablets where you can select the images to form sentences and all that. And they mentioned that, of course, this is a type of aphasia where the patient gets stuck on one word where he thinks or she thinks that they are expressing the entire statement, but of course they are not. So I don't know, like in this case of aphasia, like where to go from here, what to do, or like
before you go and spend a lot of money, download Scrabble, Wordscapes, Wordle, engage with him in conversation, though you may not understand him.
Yes.
Let him speak. Let him sing. That's the greatest. Let him sing. I don't know if he does or if he doesn't. And if I'm just giving you options, let him read actual books. Let him read what's on the screen. It will not be easy because for years after I had my stroke, I could not read. I wasn't interested. The words were becoming jumbled up. Yeah. Yeah. So, but in combination, that's all you can do. And I mean, if he doesn't get better, he doesn't get better. And I can help you deal with him not getting better. But before you go to spend a lot of money, let him sing, play word games on his phone, watch TV, read the newspapers, read for pleasure. And I hope.
So I guess basically we just have to try do maximum whatever natural things a normal person would do.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more than a normal person would do because.
Yeah, more than that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. More than what a normal person would do, no denying.
Yeah, as in, by that, what I mean is like whatever needs to be done, like read a newspaper. Or...
Other thing, interesting thing, which we can touch upon a bit is, and you also mentioned that, Samantha, singing. There are people in our group also who have had some amount of success singing. We had a session on, I think, melodic intonation therapy, where people try to sing along to songs that they already know, in the language they already know. Because I think, if I remember correctly, the singing centers in the brain, I think, are different from the speech center. So, to some people, singing can help at least communicate.
Yeah.
Also, as I mentioned to you, Harisab, 4 or 5 months, fair amount of time is still there, because that stroke happened in March. And
no time at all.
Yes.
No time at all.
Yeah, that is there. So consistent efforts, determined efforts. We can only hope. We can say that will lead to results. Another thing, while I'm on the subject, Samantha, it was interesting for me, and I'm sure it will be of interest to many people also. You are multilingual, right? You said German and which other languages do you know? English.
English, Trimbigonian.
Oh. So
it's not an official language. I'm joking. It's a dialect.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But now all of these languages you are able to speak or communicate fluently in all of them, reasonably fluently.
Yes.
And
Duolingo.
Which one was your native tongue?
English.
English. But you said you woke up speaking German.
Yes. I lived in Germany. I lived in Switzerland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
German is like my second language. I have an affinity for German. I don't know where it came from, but that's a long story. My mom's married to an Austrian, so was married to a German, so I don't know. I lived in Germany as a child, so I guess that's where it comes from.
You're right. Because in India also, that's a challenge that some of us, and I'm sure some people are here, we wonder, sometimes, because we have multiple languages in India.
Yeah.
And then we have a native language, we have the English in which we speak. Unfortunately, the apps in India, at least, are not in or local dialects. They're primarily in English or in Hindi. I think a little bit of them. So that is a challenge. So yes, it is an interesting experience that you could recover most of your multilingual abilities. And how long roughly did it take post-stroke for you to get at least your verbal abilities back? If I may ask.
5 years.
Sorry?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, that's just me though.
Yeah, but of course,
it
would be different from different people. But yes, it's just a.
So, Harish.
Yes.
Your dad having a stroke in March.
Correct.
Don't apply your need to get everything done now approach to him. Okay, let it happen. Encourage him. Practice love to him, and practice also self-love. I know he's eager to get back, but there is no going back. You're not the same from 1 minute to the next. So how can you go back? I see that more than anything with the stroke groups that I interact with. I just want to get back to feeling normal, get accustomed to the new normal. That's what I would say.
I see, okay.
And work progressively towards achieving your goals, whatever they may be. All right?
I understand. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. That is very important. We all, yes, it's a hope that we get back. But as we just had a chat a week ago or a couple of weeks ago, where with Aaron Avila, who runs Stroke TV Media.
Yes.
And he came up with a very nice term. He said, more than recovery, I believe in rebuilding.
Yes.
It's a new me, and I'm going to rebuild according to my present abilities, my present, capabilities. So recover and rebuild. They go hand in hand.
Yes.
And that is, I think we all, it's a balance, but I think we all need to recognize that also, that yes, things have changed. Things have. Anyone else would? I'm seeing something in the chat. Let me just look at that. Okay, there's a question from Sridhar. How NLP can help stroke survivors or caregivers in being motivated and more positive? Would you like to address that?
Yes. NLP is neuro, the brain, linguistic, the language, and programming, how we combine those two. So if the quality of the self-talk or the conversations we have with others goes in a certain, let's say, negative direction, we have the ability to reprogram our mindset with a sense of curiosity and a striving for excellence. So it can absolutely help with motivation and getting things done according to your time schedule, not according to mine, according to what you know and feel and sense is right for you. It involves all of the senses, the visual, the kinesthetic, the oratory, everything. So it can absolutely do that. Yeah. You want me to give an example?
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the Disney model? Disney? You've heard of Disneyland?
Right.
Right. Disney was his name. He once used this when he was building Disney World. Before he built Disney World, nobody had ever heard of giant mice and all the toys that he has and the Epcot Center, but he went into the first person position of being a dreamer. And he let his mind run free. he let it run amok. He dreamt what he wanted to do. Then he switched to the critic. And the critic let loose. What are you doing? This doesn't make sense, blah, blah. And he criticized and he tore apart everything that the dreamer had dreamt. And then he went into the guru position, the outside person, and he asked sensible questions of the dreamer's dream and the critic standing. And that gave him a really good perspective of what his capabilities are, what his vision was, what environment he was in, what his beliefs were, who he was. And this can be applied to anything that's going on in the stroke survivors or the caregivers or the head injury survivors. Anybody, you can apply it to your world and see what comes out on the other side. It's all, it's all different, but I've applied this approach to several of my stroke survivor, and the directions they've taken, it was truly astonishing for me. One girl, she was down in the dumps. She felt as if her life had no purpose. And she was really in a dark place. But through careful and enlightened questioning, I was able to draw out what she really cared about and what she thought she couldn't do, but she actually could. Fear is a big part of what NLP coaching seeks to dispel. And once you get rid of fear, anything is possible.
Correct.
Yeah.
And as you say, I was just wondering, that example of Walt Disney you gave, obviously he did not practice NLP consciously. I mean, I would imagine that he was not an NLP practitioner per se.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't.
So, but yeah, he tried to view the same situation maybe from the perspective of the three personalities that you elaborated upon to find the answers, and that is what NLP enables you to do. I would. That's what you were saying. On the subject also, one is the affected, and as you yourself say, even the caregivers, even the family, they are undergoing a lot of stresses.
More stress, I would say, than the stroke survivor themselves. Yeah, because the stroke survivor is dealing with his new reality. The caregiver has to hold all the stroke survivors' issues aloft and hold their own. And it's that juggling. So my heart goes out to you and any stroke survivor or head injury survivor, caregiver that's out there, because they get no training, like zip. And we take our carers, as they're called in the UK, or caregivers as they're known in America, for granted. And I can imagine that's the same in India. That's just your lot, isn't it? Yeah, but there are ways to deal with your issues or issues that you and the stroke survivor come to me with.
So for sure, NLP can help even the family, even the caregiver, and as well as the affected. Normally, what happens with you? Do you see both the caregiver and the affected together coming to take NLP sessions, or sometimes
it depends on what I want? So I've had a situation where a caregiver came to me, and it was about both her parents. One was going through cancer, and her mom cared for the cancer survivor, but then she had a really major stroke. So it all fell onto the daughter's lap. And she was pulling her hair out, like, whoa. And she just wanted to come for herself. And that's what she did. Because by that time, the mom had had such a severe stroke. Like, she died, she passed away in the following year. But it was about the caregiver. Yeah.
And
So
now, how long do these sessions last? Like it's 1 hour a week, and how do you prepare for this? What is the schedule like? I'm sure people might be interested in that.
So it's whatever it works for you. So it can be once every 2 weeks, once a month, once a week, twice a week. If I feel that twice a week is maybe too much, we will have a conversation about that. If I feel once a month is too little, we'll maybe have, normally they go for once a week, but it can be every 2 weeks. And what I do is conduct a getting to know you session to see if we get along, if you're ready for coaching, or if I can help you in some other way, signpost you. And then we set up our schedule. It normally takes 6 to 10 weeks till you start to see a difference in your approach. But I studied NLP coaching over 2 years, so once a week. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing a question there from Shridaji. He says, is there an element of spirituality involved in NLP or not?
Well, I think so. I've never considered it from that aspect, but I think so, because we get, I was saying to Shalaja earlier, we take ourselves so important. It must happen according to when I say, and we are just a speck, not even a speck in this cosmos. And yeah, I think so, but not a major.
How would you consider yourself? You think you have grown more spiritual after the stroke and after going through these experiences in NLP? How would you view yourself?
I was always fairly spiritual. But definitely the feeling of having gone through a stroke and having made such a relatively good recovery has deepened as a result of the stroke. I think so, but I've never thought about it like that. I was always fairly spiritual, not going to church, but fairly spiritual.
I think in some ways, and that's the experience of many people I have interacted, we see it. I think it makes one appreciate life more.
Live in the now.
Live in the now, as you say, yes.
Everybody should do that, but more so a stroke survivor.
Yeah, because it shows, I think, many times how uncertain things can be and how uncontrollable things can be. But within that, as you say, you have to find your space and your peace, so as to say.
Peace.
I'm seeing that we are at 9:50. We well past the time that we set
I
for
know.
ourselves. It has been a very interesting talk. I will just quickly ask, and anyone has anyone to say or anything to ask at this stage before we close the meeting? If anyone wants to say anything or wants to ask something that we might have missed on, please unmute yourself and maybe you can speak. Or we can close the meeting. Okay, I think that's.
I would like to just thank her because she has a lot of mental strength that I can see in her. It's like it gives me a lot of hope. In fact, to move on.
Indeed.
It's been a long time since people have spoken this way. I would say more very resilient, very easygoing. I myself have felt that I have taken my physical and mental self for granted prior to stroke. Whatever kind of thing. But after that, I have been really very careful in treating my body as well as my mind to safeguard the peace of mind. But seriously, your speech and that way you interacted with us today, gave me a lot of hope and to understand that the willpower is really important, and that will definitely do wonders.
Yes, it does. It does.
So thank you so much.
Thank you
Samantha.
very much,
Thank you very much.
Shailaja. I love your name.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hardeep.
Yeah, thank you very much, Samantha. It's been a pleasure having you. And
thank
of course,
you very
I'll
much.
be putting your details on our chat and as well as on our groups. And hopefully we can interact again. Certainly would like to learn more from you.
Yes.
And wish you well. Your journey is ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. And I will be in touch with you because I'm hosting a free group course on what NLP can do for stroke survivors, head injury survivors, and their carers or caregivers. Soon to come.
Yes, please do that. Please do that. Yeah. Any time, now or in the future.
Yes,
feel that there is something that can help the group, please feel free and we'll put it across and we'll take it further from there. So thank you very much, everyone, also for joining in. And
thank you. Thank you, Shruti.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Closing the meeting now. Namaste all and thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.